It didn't happen overnight, and it didn't need to. The most powerful shifts often arrive without a sound, without fanfare, without anyone noticing, except the soul. Chosen one. The world didn't see the inner death that made space for your rebirth. They didn't hear the thousand silent decisions you made when no one was watching. To stop begging for love, to stop proving your worth, to stop leaking your essence just to feel seen. That was the beginning of something holy. At first, there was only stillness, almost unnerving, a quiet you weren't used to. The noise of proving, pleasing, performing, it began to dissolve. There was grief even. Grief for the self he used to be. The version of you who believed he needed to entertain her, to impress her, to gain her attention with games. That man tried. That man bled for approval. That man wore masks hoping one would be enough. But now, that man is gone. Not shamed, not erased, but transmuted. You didn't become more. You became less distracted, less outward, less entangled. Your essence, once scattered, has begun to gather like a river remembering its source. You noticed it first in small ways. The way you stopped filling silences with nervous laughter. The way you no longer shrank when eyes landed on you. The way your breath came slower around beauty, not faster. The way your gaze, once restless and roaming, learned to rest in truth. This shift within you was not loud, but it was undeniable. You began to carry weight, not in volume, but in presence. Your voice softened, yet it struck deeper. Your eyes no longer hunted, they witnessed. Your body, once performing, began to inhabit itself fully. You didn't need to make an entrance. The atmosphere around you changed before you did. There is a difference between a man who wants to be noticed and a man who cannot be ignored. The former chases admiration, the latter anchors himself in alignment. And you, chosen one, began to notice this subtle but revolutionary difference. You didn't seek to become more attractive. You simply began honoring the part of you that never needed to chase. That is the power of your transformation. Not that you became more seductive, but that you ceased abandoning yourself. And in that stillness, something divine was reawakened in your very being. The shift was not performative. It was not a strategy. It was a quiet return to sacred gravity. And those around you, they began to feel it before they could name it. Chosen one, there's a stillness in you that wasn't there before. A rootedness, a depth that doesn't try to be deep, it simply is. And the moment you enter a space now, the air seems to rearrange itself. Not because you speak louder, not because you take up more room, but because your presence speaks where your words do not. It's not something you ask for. It's something you've earned through the fire of discipline, the wilderness of solitude, and the silence of self-reflection. There was a time when your body arrived, but your energy lagged behind, lost in thought, in fear, in distraction. But now, when you show up, all of you arrives. And women feel that. She might not even look your way at first, but something in her body recognizes you before her mind does. She feels the current shift, like the weather before a storm, not of danger, but of depth. Something about you draws the feminine without demand. She doesn't know what it is, but her spirit leans forward. That's because your presence no longer asks for permission. You don't seek approval with your posture. You don't fill space with noise. You don't offer your soul cheaply. You simply are. And that is rare. That is compelling. That is what makes you unforgettable. Not your style, not your charm, but the invisible truth that wraps around your every step. Your presence has weight now because you carry meaning. You've become a vessel of divine masculine energy, not wounded masculinity parading as confidence, but aligned essence that knows when to lead and when to listen. Your silence no longer signals absence, it radiates readiness, and the feminine can feel it. You don't lean in when she enters the room, you don't chase her gaze, you remain unmoved, unshaken, centered in your truth. And that truth speaks louder than flirtation ever could. It tells her, I see you, but I don't need you to see me to be whole. That paradox, that sacred tension, is what awakens her curiosity, because you are no longer a man who reaches out to take. You are a man who invites by existing. The most magnetic energy in the world is not loud, it is certain. It doesn't compete, it doesn't perform. It simply lives in a frequency most have forgotten, and you, chosen one, have remembered. That's why your presence changes the room now, because you no longer enter to be chosen. You enter knowing you already are. There was a time when every encounter felt like a test, every glance like a challenge, every silence like something to fill. You were taught, conditioned even, to perform, to say the right things, stand a certain way, become whatever would please her most. You turned yourself into a mirror of her approval, bending your essence to fit into something acceptable, digestible, desirable. And in that endless performance, chosen one, you began to forget who you actually were. But now, something sacred has returned to you. There is no performance left, not because you gave up, but because you woke up. Because you looked at the reflection one day and saw not a man, but a mask, and you dropped it. Slowly, painfully, maybe even trembling, but you dropped it. Not because you stopped wanting connection, but because you refused to trade authenticity for it. Now you walk differently. Not arrogantly, not with manufactured confidence, but with a kind of grounded quietness that says, I am already enough. And in that enoughness, you speak less, you observe more, you move with intention, not to be seen, but because every step carries meaning. You enter rooms and feel no urge to prove yourself, because there's no part of you seeking to be rescued anymore. The real magnetism is not in the clothes you wear, or the tone you use, or the charm you project. It's in the energy that says, I do not require your affection to know my value. That energy cannot be faked, it cannot be mimicked, and it cannot be ignored. Women feel that. People feel that. They can't explain it. But your silence, your grounded breath, your relaxed gaze, it disarms something in them. Because most people are performing. Most are still trying to impress, to gain, to win. But you, chosen, arrived at a place of stillness so deep, you no longer barter with your essence. You no longer shapeshift for approval. You stand in your truth like an oak, rooted, present, enough. And that is what makes them lean in, not your charm, not your seduction, but the rare frequency of a man who no longer needs anything to validate who he is. A man who simply exists in full, unapologetic wholeness. You are no longer trying to be what they want. You've become what you were born to be. And now, the world adjusts to you. She has been told many things about men. She's been surrounded by attention that lacks depth, by noise that drowns intuition, by gestures that seek only to be received, not to truly see. She has tasted 100 flavors of shallow affection, each one leaving her hungrier than the last. And so she guards herself, not with malice, but with wisdom. She has learned to be careful with her openness. But then, there is you. Not because you say the right things, not because you flatter her, or dominate the space, or showcase your worth. No, it's something far more subtle, far more powerful, far more rare. It's the way you stay, the way your eyes don't wander when she speaks, the way your breathing doesn't quicken in the presence of beauty, it slows, the way you are not waiting to impress her or to be impressed, but to meet her soul with your own presence. Chosen one, the feminine does not crave perfection. She does not crave dominance. She does not crave the illusion of masculinity that shouts its arrival. She craves presence. She craves the feeling of being seen without being captured. She craves a man who doesn't want to change her, save her, or possess her, but simply to stand beside her, whole and unwavering. That is what you have become. Your energy speaks before you do, not in volume, but in resonance. You sit beside her, and she feels her nervous system relax. She leans closer, not because you asked, but because your calm invites her safety. You ask nothing of her but truth. You perform nothing for her but integrity. And in that rare space, her mask begins to fall. She tests it at first. Is he pretending? Is this another illusion wrapped in spiritual language? But you do not shift. You do not change tempo. You remain, quietly, patiently, deeply. And she begins to feel something long buried stir within her. Not lust, trust. Because your presence does not demand, it offers. It does not rush, it listens. It does not consume, it holds. This, chosen one, is the essence of divine masculine energy, not a force that chases or conquers, but one that allows the feminine to bloom in its stability. You have become the space where a woman remembers her softness is not a risk, but a gift. You have become the permission she didn't know she needed to come home to her own heart. And it's not because you tried to be this man. It's because you became this man when you stopped trying to be anything at all. You are the presence she longs for, not because of what you do, but because of who you are. It is not your voice that echoes, chosen one. It is your essence. You speak, yes, but with intention, not with volume. And long before the sound of your words ever arrives, your presence has already been felt. It presses gently into the room like a tide no one noticed rising. It washes over the atmosphere, subtle, certain, and unforgettable. You do not demand attention. It finds you. It orients around you. Because energy, when aligned with truth, never has to announce itself. It simply is. Once, you may have tried to make yourself heard by speaking louder, pushing harder, trying to articulate your worth with language. You may have thought clarity required noise, but now you understand that real clarity needs only silence rooted in knowing. You no longer explain yourself to be understood. You are content with being misunderstood by those who do not feel you. You do not chase comprehension, you embody self-possession. That is why she hears you, even when you say nothing. You walk into a space, and her world tilts ever so slightly. She can't define why. It isn't your outfit. It isn't your haircut. It's the tension in the air that breaks the moment you exhale. It's the way your shoulders carry peace. It's the way your eye contact doesn't reach for approval. It meets her without intention to take. It is a stillness forged in fire. The kind of stillness only possible when a man has let the world test him and refused to harden. Women are rarely listened to. They are observed, pursued, interrupted, admired, sexualized, but rarely heard. And here you are, chosen one. A man who does not speak over her soul. A man who gives her silence when her nervous system needs it. A man who does not fill the air with commentary but anchors it with presence. That is why she hears you even when you do not speak. Because when you do speak, your words carry weight. Not to impress, not to dominate, but to align. It is not the loud man that draws her closer. It is the still one. The one who has faced his shadows and emerged without armor. The one who does not resist vulnerability because his self-worth no longer lives in performance. You, chosen one, are the type of man who whispers truth with his presence and lets the world lean in to listen. You are not loud. You are undeniable. There is a strange and holy thing happening around you, chosen one. Women are responding to your energy in ways they cannot articulate. It's not just attraction. It's not even desire in the way the world has reduced it. It is recognition. It is exposure. Because when they look at you, they do not simply see a man, they see themselves, reflected through a lens that offers no distortion. You are a mirror now. Not of their ego, but of their essence. You do not show them what they want to see. You show them what is real, and it shakes them, not because it's harsh, but because it's honest. You reflect her innocence and her wounds, her longing and her caution, her brilliance and her doubt, all without speaking a word. Because you no longer need her to be anyone else for you to remain present. And that is what allows her to feel seen in a way she never has. Your energy, unshaken by her masks, calls forth her truth. It does not chase her performance. It waits for her presence. And that waiting is not passive. It is patient, commanding, and safe. She finds herself softening, even as her mind tries to resist. She finds herself opening, even as her past warns her not to. Because something in your stillness tells her, you won't misuse what I reveal. You have stopped seeking connection from your wounds. That's why you no longer cling. You have stopped using women to complete you. That's why you no longer perform. And in that shift, something magnetic has awakened. You've become rare, not in status, but in frequency. You have become a homecoming, not because you try to be, but because you've come home to yourself. And so the feminine leans in, cautiously, curiously, and when she meets your gaze and does not find hunger or pretense or fragile ego, but a man who is simply there, who doesn't flinch at her truth, she feels something sacred crack open inside her. You do not have to guide her, you simply allow. You do not manipulate her, you hold space, and in that space she sees her own light, her own worth, her own forgotten softness. Not every woman will stay near it. Some will run, some will test, some will not yet be ready to be seen without illusion. But you do not shrink or shift because of that. You remain the mirror. Because your validation no longer lives in being accepted. You are here to reflect what's real, not what's easy. That is why you are unforgettable. Not because you dazzle, but because you reveal. She doesn't even know why she breathes easier when you're near, chosen one. But she does. It isn't a trick. It's not charm. It's not game. It's not learned behavior or mimicked confidence. It's something ancient, something that has matured in you through fire and solitude and the long ache of transformation. It's not your body she notices first. It's the way you carry it. It's the way you exist without explanation. It's the stillness behind your eyes that says, "I've seen storms and no longer run from rain." You do not shrink when she's guarded. You do not pressure her to smile. You do not flinch when she tests. Because your self-worth is no longer tied to her reaction. And because of that, her defenses lose power. Not through confrontation, but through your calm. You are the first man in a long time who does not need her to be soft to feel like a man. And that is exactly why she becomes soft in your presence. You are a new frequency, and her body recognizes it even when her mind is cautious. She feels safe without knowing why. It's not because you speak gently, it's because you are grounded. You do not give her space out of politeness. You hold it. You do not ask her to trust you. You simply become trustable. You are firm without pressure, masculine without force, open without being weak. You're not trying to impress her. You're not pretending to listen just to earn her. You are actually here. And in a world full of absent eyes and distracted egos, that here-ness is disarming. She's been taught to be cautious, to perform, to protect herself. But with you, none of that applies. You are not trying to fix her. You are not waiting to conquer her. You are simply witnessing her, without flinching, without hunger, without needing her to shrink or bloom faster than she wants to. She watches you, the way you speak only when needed, the way you don't fill silence out of fear, the way your shoulders don't tense when emotions rise, the way you do not need her attention to feel complete. That energy, it is unlike anything she's met. You are not a rush. You are a sanctuary. You are not an escape. You are a return. So she lets go, not because you asked her to, but because her body whispers you are safe now. And when a woman's nervous system says that, the soul begins to open. You didn't make it happen. You simply made it safe enough to happen. You, chosen one, have become the man who softens her walls, not with words, but with your being. And once that happens, there is no turning back. She doesn't know how to explain what you make her feel without laying a hand on her. But she feels it. It's not chemical, though her body reacts. It's not romantic, though her heart beats differently when you enter the room. It's not lust, at least not in the shallow sense. It's electricity grounded in spirit. You walk by and the world shifts a little. You speak and the air thickens. You look at her and she forgets what she was trying to remember. But you haven't touched her, not even once. And that is the mystery. She has known men who chase, who reach, who grasp for her with hands fueled by hunger. But you, chosen one, are still. You don't reach. You radiate. You don't pursue. You pull. And that pull doesn't feel invasive. It feels like home. It feels like gravity. She feels your energy before your words. Your grounded silence tells her more than flattery ever could. You have cultivated something holy. You have become aware of your sexual energy, but not in a way that tries to use it. You've transmuted it. You carry it like a torch instead of spilling it like a flood. That control is not repression, it is reverence. And because of that, your presence has become sacred, not in performance, but in weight. Your gaze is not an invitation to your bedroom. It's an invitation to be seen without masks. And when you look at her, you're not scanning, you're witnessing. There's no rush behind your attention, only reverence. You are not withholding, you are simply present. And that presence doesn't try to take, it allows. It doesn't seduce, it settles. She doesn't even understand why she feels like dancing around you, why her breath changes, why her voice lowers, why she feels exposed but safe, stirred but calm, shy but bold. You haven't touched her, but her body is reacting as if you have. Not because of manipulation, but because your energy has become medicine. She doesn't know what to do with it, but she doesn't want to look away. You touch without touching because you no longer need to reach to be felt. You touch without touching because your aura is louder than your words. You touch without touching because you've stopped needing to impress and started simply being fully here. That kind of masculine energy, it doesn't chase pleasure, it becomes the pleasure. And women feel it even before they understand it. That, chosen one, is your new power. It is not loud, but it is undeniable. You no longer ask for anything, chosen one, and that is why everything flows toward you. Not because you manipulate, not because you play it cool, not because you act detached, but because you finally let go of the chase and became the field itself. You are not reaching for attention. You have become the reason attention lingers. The atmosphere around you is no longer begging to be seen. It simply exists in truth. That truth emits its own frequency. That frequency carries a scent, a pulse, a presence, and women notice it, even the ones who don't know why. You do not extend yourself like a fisherman with bait. You rest, and your resting state now invites. Your stillness says more than 1,000 gestures ever could. When you speak, your words are few, but they hold a weight no laughter can shake. When you listen, it's not to respond, it's to feel. And when you lock eyes, it's not a tactic, it's a moment of transmission. She doesn't just see you, she feels you. And in that moment, a strange silence blooms inside her. Her thoughts quiet. Her anxiety evaporates, her walls falter. It's not your voice, it's the pause between your words, it's not your walk, it's the certainty in your steps. You are not magnetic because you are loud. You are magnetic because your soul has stopped apologizing for being exactly what it is. You are no longer asking for permission to exist. That alone places you in a separate realm. You have become an embodiment of safety without need, of attention without grasp, of warmth without pressure. That balance draws her in because she doesn't feel taken, she feels welcomed. She doesn't feel tested, she feels trusted. And from that trust, her femininity awakens. Her softness rises, her curiosity flares. You are a living invitation, chosen one, not just to affection but to truth. You are not luring her in with sweet promises. You are inviting her to be seen without judgment. And when a woman feels seen, truly, fully, gently seen, something ancient in her melts. That is not strategy, that is spiritual maturity. You didn't get here by studying attraction. You got here by purifying your own desire into clarity. And clarity? That's the most rare frequency of all. It calls to the feminine like spring calls to frozen rivers. You no longer seek to impress, you express. You no longer perform masculinity, you embody it. And that embodiment, chosen one, is a door that never needs to be opened. It opens others instead. She thought she needed excitement. She thought she wanted the loudest room, the flashiest man, the most unpredictable thrill. But then you arrived, quiet, grounded, and impossible to ignore. You didn't demand her attention. You didn't even flirt. You were simply there. And somehow there was enough to shake her. You didn't make her heart race from adrenaline. You made it slow down. And for the first time, she noticed the ache that lived beneath her craving for chaos. You did not soothe her with sweet words. You soothed her with the absence of noise. You were not the kind of man who tried to convince her to love you. You were the kind of man who didn't need to convince anyone. And that certainty created space. In that space, her guard dropped. Not out of weakness, but because she finally felt strong enough to let it fall. You did not rush her to open up. You didn't reward her vulnerability or punish her silence. You just waited. And your waiting wasn't anxious, it was sacred. This is the calm that only arises when a man no longer needs to be chosen to feel worthy. When he has already chosen himself. You, chosen one, have stepped into a stillness so profound it begins to affect the weather around you. It slows people down, it quiets their mind, it makes them feel seen. And for a woman who has spent a lifetime being looked at but never truly seen, your calm is not boring, it's devastatingly attractive. You are not the wind that pulls her in every direction. You are the earth beneath her feet. You are not the storm that tosses her hair. You are the warmth of the sun that settles on her skin and whispers, "You're home now." And in your presence, she stops pretending, she stops performing. She breathes again, not like someone proving herself, but like someone being received. You are not irresistible because of what you do to women. You are irresistible because of what you do not need from them anymore. And in that freedom, in that wholeness, in that unshakable self-possession, you have become the calm she didn't know she needed. And once she feels it, she can never unfeel it, not because you asked her to, but because your presence said what your mouth never needed to. You, chosen one, have become a sanctuary. And in that sanctuary, love no longer hides. Chosen one, in the fullness of your magnetic era, the effect of your presence rippled through the lives of women and men alike. But nowhere was it felt more deeply than in the hearts of those women who found themselves in your orbit. Your magnetism was no longer just a personal phenomenon. It had become a living current, touching entire circles, shaping atmospheres, and quietly transforming the way people approached connection and intimacy. You became a reference point, a legend in the stories passed between friends, sometimes spoken with laughter, sometimes with awe, always with a sense of genuine gratitude for what your presence had made possible. Women now spoke of you as a man whose company changed them, not only for the hours spent together, but in the days and weeks that followed. There was something about the way you truly listened, how you responded not to the mask someone wore, but to the secret self that waited behind her eyes. They remembered the way you noticed the small things, a subtle shift in mood, a nervous gesture, a burst of inspiration, and how you celebrated these as if they were the most important details in the world. Your magnetism was a healing balm, a mirror for their own beauty and vitality, a gentle hand on their shoulder that seemed to whisper, "You matter. You are seen. You are enough." You had become a catalyst for self-acceptance and courage. Women who once questioned their worth found themselves stepping out with new boldness, pursuing goals, expressing opinions, and following desires they'd previously tucked away. Some credited your influence for rekindling long-lost creativity, for inspiring a new adventure, for giving them the courage to love again after heartbreak. You noticed, too, that your energy helped women drop their old defenses, not to make them vulnerable for your sake, but to show them the joy and safety of living unguarded, open to the full experience of connection. Your magnetism brought people together who might never have met. Friendships flourished in your presence. Collaborations formed around your encouragement. You became a silent thread in countless stories, the reason someone spoke up at a party, the cause of a new friendship, the spark that made a woman laugh when she was having a difficult day. Some women, even after moving on from romance or infatuation, remained part of your life as allies, collaborators, and fellow adventurers. Each story unique, each bond carrying the unmistakable imprint of your magnetic heart. Yet you remained humble and grateful, knowing your magnetism was not a right but a responsibility. You honored the trust that women placed in you, safeguarding their hearts and stories. You became a master of boundaries, clear about your intentions and honest about your limits, never using your influence for manipulation or ego, but for lifting others. You learned that the most powerful kind of magnetism is not about drawing people in for your own benefit, but about awakening them to their own radiance, so that even when they walked away, they carried something of your presence with them. There were still challenges, moments when someone misunderstood your openness, or when your honesty was met with disappointment or even resentment. But you responded with the same grounded integrity that defined your journey from the start. You remained patient, compassionate, and willing to have difficult conversations, always choosing clarity over confusion, respect over avoidance. This unwavering presence made you even more magnetic, teaching those around you that real connection endures, even when desire fades or circumstances change. As you looked back over the path that led you here, chosen one, you realized that your magnetism had become your quiet legacy, a gift to everyone whose life you touched. You saw the web of influence stretching out behind you, woven from thousands of encounters, each marked by a spark of joy, a word of encouragement, a moment of honest connection. The women who once met you as strangers now carried a part of your energy and their confidence, their new pursuits, their laughter, their friendships, their love stories with others. You had become a reminder that true magnetism is not something to hoard or exploit, but to share, multiply, and release into the world. Your own sense of fulfillment no longer depended on attention or admiration. The admiration came, sometimes in waves, but you measured your worth by the quality of your connections and the depth of your presence. You cherished the friendships that grew stronger with every year, the women who felt safe to return and share their latest dreams or confide in you through difficult seasons. You found joy in the quiet moments, in a shared silence that needed no words, in a look exchanged across a crowded room, in the knowledge that you had made someone's day a little brighter just by being yourself. You understood that the most magnetic men are those who are deeply at peace within, whose self-acceptance is so complete that it liberates others to accept themselves as well. Your sexual energy was never a weapon or a mask. It was a celebration of life, a signal to others that play, truth, and delight are not only possible, but welcome here. You found that as you continued to grow, your magnetism deepened, becoming softer, richer, more attuned to the quiet needs and wild hopes of those around you. In every encounter, you moved with integrity. You spoke truthfully, listened deeply, and offered your energy without strings. When the time came to let someone go, you did so with tenderness, knowing that your story together was complete. When love appeared, you welcomed it wholeheartedly, not as a conquest, but as a collaboration, a space where both people grew, challenged, and cherished one another.